Riding in on a white horse, thinking I should have stayed at home, holding on to the silent nights I spent all on my own. My mirror shows those stormy eyes I've come to know so well.
Well, folks, that was a brilliant new single called Fiona by Caitlin May, who's on the line all the way from South Wales. How you doing, Caitlin?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
No, my pleasure. Thank you. I know you must be busy looking. And again, ladies and gentlemen, on the radio, this is a Zoom meeting, so I can see into a recording studio that a dad built for her, apparently, in the back garden. And I'm like jealous.com. It's brilliant.
Oh, I am super, super lucky because I have to admit, I do not know the first thing, well, one about building anything. Please don't ask me to build anything, even though it's Lego.
Say that, but I'm a dad as well, and no.
And two, I'm not very technical, and he not only built it because he is a carpenter by trade, but he researched all of the equipment. So, you know, the mixing desk, the speakers, the sound booth, which is a separate room, and I'm in the main room. He just built it all, researched it all, and I could not have asked for a better present. And he really is talented and also hardworking, because I know that he didn't know anything about the sound and the technical side of things until he started researching it. So it definitely took a lot of energy and effort, and I'm very grateful to him.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the inside of that room, which is the technical side of it.
Yeah.
I could get away with that one.
And neither. I'm not
one. I'm going, I'll get a man in, you know.
Yeah, I would have said the same. I'm not the technical side, and I'm definitely not the building side. I'm just the singer-songwriter.
Just the singer-songwriter. But I think, to be honest with you, and again, this will come to the fore in a little while when we talk about having people around you, because already you've indicated about the support, but we'll touch on that a little bit, because I like to get to for the viewers and the listeners to understand a lot more what goes into an artist and the cost. But I would imagine that it will pay dividends, because the amount of cost you pay for studios and the like, it would pay for itself in a nanosecond, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it is a very expensive game, and especially when you're in a very creative period, because sometimes you do go through a dry period where you don't have the same inspiration or the same level of inspiration. But when you do, and the songs are coming to you and the ideas are coming to you, and you want to take them to the studio as quickly as you write them, it can become a very expensive game. And you also never know when a release is going to skyrocket and when it's not going to. So you don't know if you're going to see a return through releasing it on music platforms. It's sometimes hit or miss. And it depends too if you release on the same day as a megastar, and you've kind of put yourself in an awkward position. So there are so many different factors to think about, and having a studio at your disposal is definitely an advantage.
No, brilliant. But congratulations on the single as well. It's a brilliant single. And I just spoke a little bit off air then that when listening to it, it adds a different vibe to what's already out there. And you've sort of, for me, you're already forming your own path.
Thank you so much. It's been a journey writing and deciding to release Fiona now, being my first song release of 2023. I am super excited, and it's going to be part of a bigger project. So just the process of writing all the songs on the upcoming EP has been really just, I know it sounds like a very big statement to say life-changing, but I feel like it has been, because it's allowed me to write about a lot of emotions that I felt in the past and even in the present. So it's been a big help.
And also the amount of interviews I've conducted already through lockdown, which we'll touch on in a second. But everybody's thrown the kitchen sink on studio, production, songwriting. It seems that it has actually helped songwriting.
Yeah, definitely. And songwriting is such a subjective thing, and it is all about being creative and what inspires you at the time. And I know the lockdown was a difficult period for us all. And it felt lonely, which is kind of what Fiona is about. So it does talk about loneliness. And for me at the time when I wrote it, it was more about loneliness I'd felt in the past, but I think it was kind of drudged up because of the situation we all found ourselves in, and kind of being stuck to the four walls that we were in and not being able to see our family and rely on our usual support systems.
And you obviously it started way back. I'd say about 2017. I'm listening, like obviously doing a little bit of research that you do, I have to do. There's a big statement there from Carrie Underwood, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, I was over the moon to have had the chance to play with Carrie at the Motorpoint Arena, her first time in Wales. So
Wow.
I just will always be honored. I had to audition, and initially this concert, her concert was going to be a surprise birthday gift for me. I'd never been to a concert before, and my parents bought tickets and they weren't going to tell me. And then they realized that when you bought tickets, you had the opportunity to audition to sing with her. And then they thought, we can't keep it a secret because she's a singer, and if we don't tell her, she will kill us when she finds out. And so they announced part of the secret to me, and they kept some things a secret so that it was still a bit of a surprise. But obviously the concert was no longer part of the surprise, and I got to audition and I sang, and not only sang but rapped The Champion with her, and it was
What?
a lifetime opportunity. I loved it. And it was really cool to do something different too, to be able to sing the rap portion as well as the singing, and it was really different, but I loved it. And it was the biggest crowd I'd ever played to. And it was not long after that we went into lockdown and the pandemic took over the world. So I'm glad that it happened before then, and I got to have a taste of what I want the rest of my life to look like.
And obviously, she's made some lovely comments in. I better watch my step here. That you got to
Oh
watch.
yeah.
That was like what?
It
That's brilliant.
blew my mind. And she was so kind and so down to earth, and she didn't have to make those comments, and she did, and it really just, it didn't make my day, it made my life. I was just so over the moon and overwhelmed in all the best ways, and she is just the nicest person ever.
The most, to be honest with you, I haven't interviewed Carrie. I'd love to interview Carrie, but I've interviewed some big stars and been introduced to some big stars, but also know quite a few big stars via other people, like Sir Garth
Yeah.
Brooks and people like that. And the stories that are told to me are the fact that they're just nice. They're just human beings. Just they've gone through the mill as new artists will ultimately have to go through. But
Yeah.
for her to actually do that, is brilliant, because some people can actually say, I've made it, and again, I've said this many times. I've been a singer for like 20 something years, just basically the clubs scene, the holiday
Yeah.
scene, holiday parks, and played a lot down Cardiff last year, and places like that. And it's a great scene to be in. But there are people who are on the same scene as me, and you get to know that you'll get to know them on the festivals or a hotel weekend, and you're going, you're sore up yourself. Singing other people's songs here, we're cover artists, and you're behaving like this.
Oh, I
You go to artists
honestly,
like Carrie Underwood, Garth, you name it, and they're going, you could take a leaf out of their book any day.
yeah. And I don't usually talk about this subject just because it it is a bit of a touchy subject, and I just try to look at the positive sides, but you definitely do meet those kinds of people in the industry. And especially because I was in the industry from a very, very young age, and it feels like I've been in the industry for a lifetime now, and I'm only 20. But I did this from a super young age, and especially being young. And I think in some ways being a girl, it's a bit of a bad combination in some
Mhm.
situations, and people would compliment you, but it's almost backhanded, and you're good for your age, or you're good for a girl. And
Yeah.
you just smile and thank them. But really you think, if you were going to compliment me, just make it a compliment and not something that I have to analyze, and it's just, I don't know. I never compliment people like that. If I think somebody is incredible and talented, which so many of the people on the scene are, then I will give them a full-blown compliment because I mean it, not
Yeah.
because I feel like I have to say it, or I feel like I have to make myself come across as more successful than them. I don't think
Yeah.
it's a competition in that way.
And never lose that. I think that because people, like I said, only for that little one comment or compliment has inspired you to go forward. You know, that the power of that is unbelievable. Equally, the power of getting a bad review can actually not destroy you, but actually give you a setback. And you have to have that mentality to, you know, dust yourself off. And I think as artists, you know, maybe not at my level. I mean, you know, I'm just saying that people, if you come off stage, you know you've been bad. If you're honest with yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, and
I remember telling myself one time I came off stage and I hadn't been playing guitar long. I only learned to play guitar in lockdown, and before then I'd never picked a guitar up in my life. And I just wanted to learn a new skill, and I was excited, but I guess nervous in a lot of ways because you know that experienced musicians, some of them are not humble, and most of them are, but some of them aren't, and usually they are the ones that will come out of the woodwork, especially in the early days. And I remember playing a show, and I love being on stage, so I would never say that I've had stage fright. I feel most at home on stage, and I knew that I had played a lot leading up to that show. I'd been writing songs, and I was in a headspace that was creative, so I couldn't put the guitar down, even though I knew I should probably give my fingers a break on the lead up to this show. And I played the show, and like you said, you're honest with yourself, and I knew that my guitar wasn't the best that it could have been because my fingers were so raw, they were bleeding. And so I felt like it almost sounded a bit tinny, and it just wasn't my best. And after the show, somebody, only one person, and the room was full, uh, said to me, like, something like, "You can't play guitar." And everybody else on his table was so embarrassed for him. He had been drinking a little bit, and I guess they do say drunks are honest. So I did say to him, "This is definitely not my best." He was like, "Well, you can't play guitar." I said, "Well, it's just today is not my best." I showed him my fingers. They were bleeding, and he was like, "Oh, you just can't play guitar." And everybody on his table, one person said, "Says the guy who tried and failed," which was very awkward because I did not know what to say. And he proceeded to take the guitar off me and play it himself. I think probably to prove a point
yeah,
because I'm not sure if it was his wife who said that, says the guy who tried and failed. Um, but I felt like I wouldn't have said it myself, but if you're gonna say it, then just,
you should
thanks.
say, I might not be able to. I may not be able to play a guitar, but I can learn how to play a guitar better. You'll always be ugly. That's what you should have.
Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, like you said, you can learn to play guitar. You can't always change a personality defect.
Exactly. I love that. Love that. And it is. And again, people don't realize what goes on. Like you say, you know, you could be playing, you think you're the best, you know, it's the best gig you've ever played at. And you'll see a few people leave towards the end. You're going, and it affects you. You know, I've actually said this at a really big event as well, about 200-300 people in there, a big event for me, that. And the you know, people, more, you know, they want an
Yeah.
encore. And I go, I'll play it, but nobody leaves. I said, shut them doors. If anybody leaves, I will stop.
Yeah.
Because I hate that.
Yeah.
You know, when they're walking past the stage as well, oh, goodbye. And you're going, I'm halfway through a song, dude.
I
You know, but
know. Yeah. It is. It can be a little bit heart-wrenching and difficult to
yeah,
see just because being a musician, especially an independent singer, songwriter, playing shows, it can be grueling, even though we love it. And I know that it's not a given that you're always going to be appreciated because it depends what genre you're singing, it
yeah.
depends what songs you're singing, and people have so many different tastes, and it's not personal. Very rarely is it personal, but sometimes you can take it to heart, and it just depends what kind of week you're having as an independent singer-songwriter.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
it, yeah, it's
Well, here's one for you. Here's one for you. If anybody comes up to you, if you're sort of new in the place or anything like that, said, oh, we've never seen you before. Here's one for you. Look straight in the eye and go, never seen you either.
yeah, yeah, Yeah.
Have that one.
Sometimes I honestly question. I think people don't always think through what they're about to say, because some of the things that have been said to me and some of the things that I know have been said to other singer-songwriters and people in the industry, and there are so many horror stories. You would never want somebody to say that to you,
No.
but they would say it to you. And I
I
think,
think, I mean, I've thought long and hard on this, and you know, if you get like somebody writes in a magazine, like there's magazines even for the sort of sector that I'm in the singing side of things, and you'll read it and you'll go, oh, I've bombed, but no, you haven't. I used to try and please everybody, and you can't. You will never please everybody. I always look at 80-20%. 80%, if you've made 80% happy, you've done well.
yeah,
The
and
20% will always moan, no matter, even if Garth Brooks was on stage, they'll say his hat's wrong or something. You know, they'll do
yeah.
it that way.
I
People are just people.
actually I actually remember when I played with Carrie Underwood and she posted a photo of me and her on her social media, and people, because obviously it's Carrie Underwood and she has
Yeah.
a lot of followers, people were commenting, and most of the comments, like you said, 80% were brilliant. And there is always that 20%. And people were saying, I remember one comment sticks in my head where somebody said, because in the photo, Carrie was smiling with, like, her teeth on show. So like when you smile big, you look happier. And I was smiling with my lips, like my mouth closed. That was because I had braces and I wanted to cherish this photo forever and not just remember,
Yeah.
oh, I had braces. And somebody said that girl looks like she's at a Kesha like, or should be at a Kesha concert, and like she doesn't know who Carrie Underwood is. I was like, actually, I love Carrie Underwood, but it's just people don't know what's going through your head at the time. And don't get me wrong, I actually liked braces, having braces. I loved choosing the colors, but I just felt like it would be a long lasting memory if,
Absolutely.
it just,
Keyboard warriors just do it. I mean, social media
yeah,
is good in a lot of places, but it can be bad. And, you know, and people have said to me in the past, they said, you know, have you got any advice or anything like that? Like at, say, my sort of level. And
yeah,
I said, just find your own path. It's not worth it. My path is definitely not yours. The people who've upset me or whatever, or been good to me, may be the opposite to you.
yeah,
You will certainly know who the head workers are within a very, very short period of time, and you become street smart. And I'll leave that with you. You know,
yeah,
and they always say that you just find your own way. Don't be this. I said my thing is be nice. Always, it's always nice to be nice. I think I learned that from
it
a very young age with my mum and dad, because you know you're going up. Hopefully, you will go all the way up, and you might need them on the way back down.
is.
You
Exactly. And,
know.
and the thing is, I truly believe we're all human, and it doesn't matter what level of
Yeah,
success you've achieved. You know, we're all human. We all hurt the same. We all bleed the same. And if I don't want to be treated like that, then I won't treat anybody else like that. And I
exactly.
think love is the only way forward.
Brilliant. And that's a great attitude to have. And one of the great things about doing these Zoom or face to face meetings is getting meet people like yourself, where you've got, you can tell. And again, ladies and gentlemen, check out the BCMA YouTube channel, because this is going to go on YouTube. The eyes, you've got that twinkle in your eyes, that fire, that desire to be, you know, you can tell from looking at you. Never lose that. You know, once you start losing that, you know, your flame starts burning out a little bit. And that, you know, and you've got to use things like what we've just spoke about as fuel to keep going on and to keep doing that. You know, that's my opinion anyway.
It's so true.
But I mean, obviously, awards have started to come along and being nominated for things. Tell us a little bit about these awards and nominations that you've been receiving.
I I honestly think 2022 has been my favorite year yet, and hopefully 2023 will beat it.
Yeah.
Um, but I got to go to Nashville for the very first time, which I was so excited about because I already knew I was going to love it and I'd never been there. Um, but I was supposed to go out 4 years before I actually managed to get there, and things just kept happening. Like, I was cast in a BBC series, and so I filmed the summer I was supposed to go to Nashville, and then they renewed it for season 2 the following summer, so I couldn't go to Nashville again.
What
But I
was
felt like Music City will still be there and this opportunity might not, so I wanted to do both. And I felt like, when the timing is right, it'll happen and you won't need to force it. And then the following 2 years, the pandemic hit and we couldn't travel. There were a lot of restrictions. So again, I felt like even though it was scary because suddenly the world shut down and
Yeah.
as artists we couldn't play live shows anymore. I realized that everybody else was in the same boat and we were in this together. And finally, things started to open back up and opportunities were arising again. And I got to go to Nashville in May. I loved it. I toured and I recorded and I met incredible people. And then I knew that I was flying back to do another tour in Nashville. But first, I was in Atlanta, Georgia for the ISSA Awards. And I was just ecstatic to be there and part of the family and to meet all these incredible people. And I didn't expect to win any awards, but I was shocked and overwhelmed to find out that I was awarded Female Vocalist of the Year Gold Award and Music Video of the Year for my song Take My Demons, which was a single off of my debut EP Perspective.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I wasn't even wearing shoes when they announced my name to walk up on the stage because I didn't expect it. And I was just enjoying the event and taking it all in and clapping for all these other incredible artists and singer-songwriters. And it wasn't just singer-songwriters and artists, but radio stations and
Yeah.
promotion companies and organizations that make it all possible. And it was just a brilliant event to be a part of. And like I said, I felt lucky to be there, let alone actually take home 2 awards. And then I flew back to Nashville in October for the 3rd time, and I was in town to tour and record again, and also to attend the Josie Music Awards, which were held at the Grand Ole Opry, and I'd never been there before.
Yeah.
So I was so excited to actually step foot in such an iconic venue where so many of my idols and these legends in the music industry have, sang and performed and accepted awards themselves. So I was just, I think, in my element, and my smile never left my face. And again, I got to see people and meet new people, but also see people that I'd met at the awards in August in Atlanta. So it was really nice to be a part of a community that is so friendly and welcoming. And I won EP of the year for my debut EP Perspective, which won a music video a couple months before. So that in itself, it felt like my year was already completely fulfilled. And then out of the blue, I was nominated for the Who's Who Country Music Awards, and I was up for a few nominations and won Entertainer of the Year. So at this point, I was smiling, laughing, crying, just all the emotions all at once.
Oh.
And that was in Indiana. I'd never been to Indiana before, and it was beautiful there. So I'm looking forward to returning to all the places I visited in 2022. And I'm actually going to be moving to Nashville permanently in July and touring there again in March. So I'm just shaking. I'm so excited.
And again, we said earlier on about the support bubble. You've already intimated to me you've got a great support family, and I think that's important, especially if you're going to travel. Is anybody going to go with you over there?
Yes, so in March, actually, my parents and momager especially are going to be coming with me. I wish my brother was coming and we could make it a whole family thing, but my brother's like, no, I want to stay home and listen to my music through my speakers and blare it out because but teenage boy, actually he's always been like that, even when he was 6, I remember, but he knows what he wants. So I'm excited to go out and share the experience with my family. And when I move, I'll be moving alone, but my parents want to move out. So hopefully shortly afterwards, they'll be able to make the move permanently themselves. And they've always been so supportive because they wouldn't move if it wasn't to help me pursue my dreams. And I'm just eternally grateful to them.
I think, again, looking at the history and the awards and meeting and networking that you've been doing, the time definitely feels right. Definitely feels right to actually piggyback on that little bit of success that you've had that people will never have. you know, they will carry on writing and performing. We'll never have that. So it's handy now to actually get in there and have the people with you to lean on when the times are a little bit low. And again, and it's great that your parents are supporting you, because I do say one of the key things. I've even asked like big artists. I've said, "What's the key things for you?" And he went, "Support." You
Yeah,
know,
it
number
is.
one, he's got to have that support and that belief in yourself, you know. And then you see some people who've been out to Nashville for a couple of years and they're still doing this, and the songwriting rounds, and they're still doing this, but you could see there's a change in them a little bit from actually chatting to them the year before, you know.
Yeah,
And again, it's such a big town with so many talented people there, and it's a lot of it's talent, and there's some of it's luck as well, isn't it? Being in the right place, right time,
yeah.
and doing that. So good things coming in 2023 as well. As I said, you've already intimated as well about the big project as well, a
Yes.
bigger project. Tell us a little bit more about that, what's coming up.
So Fiona is the first song off of a 4-song, potentially 5-song, depending if I get a chance to get back in the studio in between touring and fundraising and moving. But it's definitely a 4-track EP, for sure. And that is going to be called Seasons Change. So Fiona's the first single, and I'm going to be releasing a couple more singles before the EP comes out as a whole, hopefully in the summer if everything goes to plan.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a music video in the works for Fiona, so I'm excited for that as well. It's been a while since I recorded my last music video, and I love music video shoots. They're such a huge part of it for me because it brings in the visual as well, and people get to see the emotion on screen and not just hear it audibly. So I'm super super excited for that, and it's going to be a very different vibe to past music videos. So it'll be nice to kind of test and push my limits a little bit more. And I have so many ideas. And I'm about to go back into the um studio to take more shots for my next cover photos as well. So Seasons Change and the EP as a whole will go on to tell the story of learning to love yourself and the journey that is, because it is a journey, and you kind of never know how long that journey is going to be and when you are going to find that inner peace, because it can be a very turbulent journey to decide to embark on, and sometimes you have to walk these paths alone, and you don't know what tomorrow will hold and who is going to be there with you tomorrow, because sometimes, you're standing in a room full of 60 people, and tomorrow you might be left in a room with 2. You just don't know. And I think that's the beauty of life. You don't know, and it's an adventure, and everything is new to you. You learn new things every day, and you grow as a person, and it's special.
And you are amongst a big crop of brilliant British country artists. You know, obviously, I'm heavily involved with the British Country Music Association. That, you know, I've obviously had nominations in there as well, and we had a brilliant show at the Cavern this time a couple of months ago. That was amazing.
Yes.
I think last year was the first time I'd appeared there, and that was at Chelsea. I think it was Chelsea. But
Yeah.
you're part of this crop and this growing crop of brilliant musicians, singer-songwriters. Some have actually tried again. They've gone over to Nashville, but I think Nashville is the Mecca. I think for the first time this year, I'm going over. People always go, "You've never been to Nashville?" I know, but on about going over, me and my friends, and hopefully we're over there. We'll try and look you up and see if we can get to one of your shows, because it might be around
That would,
about the middle of the year, something like that.
that
So
would be so cool. I would love that.
yeah, we're going hello. But I'm super pleased for you. Really, really hopeful that, and I'm sure I'm confident that there's only one way for you, and that's all the way up. And keep doing what you're doing and shining the light.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it means the world to me. And I'm also really grateful to you for taking the time out to talk to me.
No, it's great, and again, it's my pleasure, and it's the confidence in you as well that's, you know, I can see, I can feel, and as I said, your mum and dad must be really, really proud, and your brother.
Sometimes.
He'll stick through gritted teeth when he's about 30. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
when you did that, you know. But no, safe travels as well in everything you do, and I look forward to more music from you, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
In on a